"You're dead weight! Get out!" my father screamed after my job loss left me unable to pay household expenses. I left quietly, but the real surprise came 4 weeks later when the inheritance arrived. Losing my career wasn't just a minor setback, it became the first domino in a chain of events I never anticipated. For a decade, I'd been the successful one. The prized child my parents showed off at reunions, the first call when funds ran low, the safety net when they overspent. And I never hesitated. It felt rewarding to support them, like my duty. Then there was Jason, my older sibling. He never moved out, never built a proper career. He worked basic retail jobs, barely covering his costs, with zero aspirations according to our parents. They treated him as a joke, a walking letdown. Whenever they lectured me about responsibility, they'd point to Jason as the cautionary tale. Then my job disappeared overnight. And suddenly, everything inverted. At first, I assumed my parents would stand by me. I'd supported them for years. Surely they'd reciprocate now that I needed help. In a way, they did. They allowed me to move back in, with strings attached. I had to purchase all groceries and cover utility bills. I paused. But what choice existed? My reserves were evaporating, and I told myself this was temporary. Just until I regained footing. Weeks became months. Rejection emails kept coming. Interviews led nowhere. I tried, submitted applications daily, but to my parents, effort meant nothing. Only results mattered, and I had none to show. The household atmosphere grew poisonous. Subtle at first, my father's disappointed glances, my mother's passive-aggressive remarks about rising costs. Then it became overt. "When will you start pulling your weight, Evan? Jason lives here, but at least he pays rent. You're not a child anymore." The cruelest part? They weren't struggling. I'd seen their finances. No drowning in debt. They had enough. But they'd grown accustomed to my financial padding. They refused to adjust. They expected me to fix everything. The sole person who didn't change toward me was Grandpa. Elderly, frail, mostly confined to his room, but his mind remained sharp, and he noticed things. "You look after me better than they do," he told me one night as I helped him to bed. I shrugged. "It's nothing." He shook his head. "It's everything." We sat quietly before he said something that stunned me. "If I pass, whatever remains is yours." I thought I misheard. My parents always claimed Grandpa had little, that medical bills consumed most. I assumed he meant some trinket, maybe petty cash. I didn't dwell on it. 3 weeks later, he died. I was shattered. My parents were inconvenienced. The funeral became another obligation, another expense. They rarely mentioned him afterward, but they had plenty to say to me. The week post-funeral, my father cornered me. I hoped, just maybe, he'd check on me, ask how I coped. Instead, start paying rent. I froze. "I'm still unemployed." "Not my problem." I stared, waiting for him to recant. He didn't. I explained I couldn't afford it. That settled it. His face twisted in revulsion. "You're dead weight. Get out." Just like that, I was homeless. Jason alone helped me pack. He looked ashamed, but held no power there. My mother barely glanced at me as I exited. My father stayed silent. I left feeling degraded. I'd given everything, and when I had nothing left, they discarded me. But none of us knew everything was about to shift. Getting ejected became my awakening. For years, I'd cushioned my parents, ensuring they never struggled. The moment I couldn't provide, they tossed me aside like garbage. The next month, I spent sofa hopping, applying for jobs, watching my account near empty. Jason checked in when possible. "They don't even mention you," he said during one call, "like you never existed." It stung but surprised no one. They'd only valued me for what I provided. Without money, I meant nothing. Then, unexpectedly, an unknown number called. "Ethan Carter?" asked an elderly voice. "Yes?" "This is Mr. Callahan, your grandfather's attorney. We must meet regarding his estate." I nearly laughed. Estate? My parents always said Grandpa had negligible assets, but with nothing to lose, I agreed. Next day, I entered a luxurious law office expecting maybe a few $100s. Instead, Mr. Callahan handed me a folder. "Your grandfather left you everything." I frowned. "Meaning?" He adjusted his glasses. "Savings, investments, property holdings. Approximately $715,000. My chest tightened. Grandpa, the man my parents ignored, had quietly amassed wealth. And rather than leaving it to his children, he willed it all to me. Leaving that office felt surreal. Then I knew exactly what to do. First, I called Jason. "Pack your bags," I said. He hesitated. "Wait, what?" "I'm getting you out." That evening, I drove to my parents as if never banished. Jason waited at the door with bags, moving fast before detection. But they noticed. Mother appeared first, eyes narrowing. "What's happening?" Jason fidgeted. "I'm leaving." She blinked. "How?" Before he answered, Father entered, already annoyed. "And how will you afford it?" He turned to me, scoffing. "Don't tell me you struck gold." I smiled, the moment I'd awaited. I opened my banking app, turned the screen toward them. Her eyes locked on the digits. $15,000. I leaned in. Turns out Grandpa had money, and left it all to me. Mother covered her mouth like she might faint. Father's jaw clenched so tight I heard teeth grind. I let the silence hang, let them absorb it. Then grabbed Jason's bags. "We're leaving now." Everything changed instantly. Jason and I exited without looking back. I expected final insults, but shock silenced them. We loaded his things into my car and drove off, their house shrinking behind us. Neither spoke for miles. Only on the highway did Jason release a shaky laugh. "Can't believe you did that." I grinned. "Believe it." He shook his head. "They'll lose their minds." He was right. I counted on it. I set Jason up in a decent apartment. Nothing extravagant, but vastly better than home. I prepaid 6 months' rent, ensuring stability. "You don't owe me this," he said as we unpacked. "You're my brother," I replied. "You deserved freedom years ago." For the first time in memory, Jason looked genuinely happy. But as we finished, my phone erupted. Mother, father, mother again. Then a text. "We need to talk." I ignored it. An hour later, Jason's phone rang. He answered, sighed, put it on speaker. Mother's voice filled the room. "Jason, where are you?" He hesitated. "I told you. I moved out." "You can't just leave." Her voice shifted to guilt trip mode. "After all we've done?" I laughed loudly enough for her to hear. Silence. Then, "Ethan, I know you're there." "Yep." Her tone turned saccharine. "Why didn't you mention Grandpa's money?" I shrugged at Jason. "Not your business." Pause. I imagined her calculating. "Ethan, we're family. We help each other." I rolled my eyes. "Like you helped me unemployed? Oh wait, you kicked me out." "Misunderstanding," she said quickly. "Your father didn't mean..." "Really?" "You're dead weight. Get out," seemed pretty clear. Another pause. Then Father's voice. "Don't be stupid, Ethan." He snapped. "You'd abandon us after all we've done?" My blood boiled, but I wouldn't give him satisfaction. I just laughed. "What exactly have you done for me?" Silence. Jason grinned. I took a breath. "Look, gotta go, but don't worry. I'll send money." Mother gasped. "Really?" "Yeah." Dramatic pause. "For your trash service." "That should cover it, right?" Jason burst out laughing. Mother sputtered. Father started shouting, but I hung up. I reclined, smirking. Think they got the message? Jason wiped laughter tears. Oh, they got it. And for the first time in forever, we were free. If you enjoyed this story and felt the emotions behind it, don't forget to give it a like, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life experiences and heartfelt stories. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring more content like this to you. Thank you for watching, And I'll see you in the next video.